Welcome to Sacred Geometry in the title page of the Shakespeare's First Folio. We'll begin by describing our tools. In order to discover any geometry on the title page, we have to use the following tools: a protractor, the 23-letter Latin alphabet gematria values, a straight edge, the Latin alphabet repeated count, and our brains. So let's begin. The first question I ask is whether or not we can find a sacred monogram. The placement of letters and words on the page certainly indicates that we can construct specific geometrical designs if we wanted to. Here's the title page to the 1609 quarto of Shakespeare's sonnets. This is a screenshot from Alexander Woe's video, Where Shakespeare Really Buried, part 3 of 4, in which he explains how to find sacred geometry on the title page as an allusion to God's hand in helping the poet write the sonnets. The X that the arrows are pointing to is the Greek letter chi. The uppercase P in Spears is actually the Greek letter rho, and together they form the first two letters in the name Christ. The rho line terminates at the very first period after the T, the first T. Another line terminates at the period after the letter G, also in the publisher's blurb. And it terminates again at the period after imprinted. The other line begins at the base of the lowercase u, which acts as the letter V. And it ends at the base of the lowercase r in the publisher's blurb. This gives us 5 recognizable and visible points with which to anchor this geometric design. So I ask myself whether or not we can find the same design in the title page to the First Folio. We already have an uppercase P, which, as we have seen, is the Greek letter rho. So what I did is I extended the line right down to the bottom of the writing. As you can see, it clips certain letters, and it also clips 2 areas on the engraving. The first letter it clips is the uppercase D in comedies. Then it clips the uppercase R in histories. It goes straight along the uppercase E, the first E in tragedies. It goes absolutely against the E in tha. It also is parallel straight to the D in London. And it ends between the N and the D in and. In the engraving, it goes right along the right-hand corner of the mouth. And it also clips through the collar seam, and the first two buttons in the doublet. This gives us a whole bunch of anchor points. The gematria sum of all these letters where the line goes straight from the uppercase I in William straight to the bottom gives us the following number: 76. And in the Latin alphabet repeated count, 76 is 4 G's, probably an allusion to God's hand in the plays, yes. Now, we've established that the row line actually connects to at least 8 different points on the title page. So the next logical step to creating the X in the chi letter is to start here, right at the left corner of the collar ruff. And the logical point to end it is at the period after the date, 1623. So that's what I did. I created a line going straight through from the collar ruff to the period after 1623. My software allows me to flip things along a horizontal axis, which is exactly what I did with this. This is what it came up with. And I was astonished because the line clips something very important in the shoulder. Here we can see in this enlarged detail that the line goes through 2 links in the embroidered design. Right here. That gives us a strong anchor point for that line. The bottom line connects to the lowercase e in printed. And then we also have the row line that goes between the N and the D in and. And of course, one of the chi lines actually starts at the point of the collar ruff and ends at the period after 1623. This gives us 5 anchor points, just like we had in the 1609 title page of the sonnets. And then when we add these 2 points here, we get 7 anchor points. Now let's look at the bottom of this chi-row monogram. As you can see, the left-hand terminal point is at the lowercase e in printed. And the right-hand terminal point is obviously going to be at the period after 1623. So if we count from the lowercase e in printed to the comma after Jaggard, we find there are 16 characters. And from the comma after Jaggard, starting at the letter A, to the period after 1623, we also have 16 characters. Together, when we add up all these characters, we find there are 33 of them, the most sacred number in Christianity, because that is the age at which Christ is alleged to have died. Therefore, we can conclude that this Chi-Rho symbol was meant to be. As an aside, if we shade these shapes slightly differently, we get a beautiful pyramid shape. Now I present to you the discovery of a sacred letter. One of the questions I had about this gross-out portrait is, why does the collar look so flat? Looks like it's plastered against a wall, for crying out loud. It's not worn by a person at all. And then I figured, well, what if this is supposed to be a letter? And what I got was the letter Y, but in Greek it's known as ypsilon. And ypsilon is a very important form or symbol in Christianity because, as you can see, various forms of medieval crosses form exactly the same shape, and it is the shape that the priests use when blessing the flocks. Therefore, I conclude that this is probably a letter that we are supposed to see. But there's more. I've always wondered why the hair looks so crooked. If we can extend a line between the outermost bulges in the left-hand side and the right-hand side, and we measure the angle using a protractor, we'll see that the angle measures approximately 171 degrees. If we include that line in the row line, we come up with something quite interesting. A very familiar shape, a cross. But I ask myself, well, what if that isn't really the cross line we're supposed to see? So I went back to the left-hand part of the collar ruff and drew a line from the point of that ruff right across to the shoulder. And what I got was something quite interesting and very familiar to most people who know their Christian iconography. We have a variation on the Cross of Lorraine. As you can see on the left, that's the way most of us see it, but in medieval and Renaissance times, the way on the right is another way of depicting the Cross of Lorraine, because the upper arm represents the sign above Christ's head, which says, I am the King of the Jews, or INRI, in Roman abbreviation. So, here we have an interesting example of tria sunt omnia. Three is everything. First, we have the Chi-Rho monogram. Second, we have 33 characters between two of the points in the Chi-Rho monogram, which represents the age at which Christ died. The third one we have is the Ypsilon cross, right at the collar. The third one can be the Cross of Lorraine. And for those people who want extra assurance about what's going on, the gematria sum of all of the letters that row line crosses or clips is 76, which in the Latin alphabet repeated count is 4 G's. It's all there to show us that they have shown God as the hidden assistant in helping the writer create the plays. Thank you for watching. Stay safe.